some,
Uh-huh.
now, I don't remember what time it was sometime this afternoon that they stopped. We've received more.
Stopped counting, oh, yeah.
Stopped counting, we received more, but we had to stop.
I think it'll stop.
Okay,
we're good.
Okay.
We're good. All right. All right. Good evening. Let's see. This is the December 5th, 2024 Policy Committee meeting for MSAD11. We will be starting here at 5:32. I'm Tony Veet, the chair of the Policy Committee. Let's see if we can.
Your policy?
Yes, Joanne O'Brien.
Becky Flesh, stand-in.
And Molly Rogers is on their way.
We'll be in shortly, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So we have the policies listed on the agenda, and then the files attached to that agenda, and then job descriptions as well for different positions.
So would you like me to begin?
Yeah, please. Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
so the first policy is ADC, which is tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco and electronic smoking devices. So the board policy committee previously looked at this, I think in August. And I'm not sure what happened, but they were never placed on a school board agenda. So we realized that they haven't officially been approved. So I brought them back here so that they could be reviewed one last time, so that we could take them forward. At the time when you took a look at this policy, we made some minor changes that included like a lighted or heated cigarette, cigar, or pipe, or a lighted heated tobacco or plant product. Found that there were some inconsistencies like that we had added back in. And then we added language around electronic smoking device means a device used to deliver nicotine or any other substance intended for human consumption that may be used by a person to simulate smoking through inhalation of vapor or aerosol from the device, including and without limitation, a device manufactured, distributed, marketed, or sold as an electronic cigarette, electronic cigar, electronic pipe, electronic hookah, or so-called vape pen. So that was added, and I think for the most part, that was it for AC. And ACR is the same policy, but it's the administrative procedures. This is how I found that we had accidentally overlooked ADC, because ADCR, what we learned is that we had made some changes to the drug use policy, right? Remember, we went back and we made some changes and added some additional steps before a student actually came to see me, rather than a one and done, right? There are now some steps that includes trying to get students some help and some support, and some
Restorative
education,
treatment, yeah.
absolutely. And so what we learned when we were going through that is that it no longer aligned with ADCR. ADCR was actually more punitive than the drug abuse policy.
Really?
Yeah. So the intention here, and hopefully I got it right, the intention was to just bring the two of them in alignment. So that's pretty much what that is about. The other thing, let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at this and seeing this doesn't quite match the document that I was working on. Because if you look at that highlighted paragraph, it says in there,
Page 3 of
Yours.
4.
Yeah, it says in there, a tobacco electronic smoking device free campus statement shall be read at the beginning of each adult ed course and at each athletic contest. That is not a current practice. That's just not realistic. So that is supposed to be stricken. And I don't see that stricken here on this particular form. So I would recommend that you remove that.
To sort of, sorry, remove that sentence.
Remove
Yeah.
that sentence.
I'm okay with that. We would keep that last sentence there saying that signs will be posted
Yes,
at entry, and I think they are.
yes,
Is
we
that-
do have
that-
signs.
That is our
Yeah.
practice. And just noticing some of the phrasing, there's a little tobacco and electronic smoking device free area. That phrasing is a little clunky for me, but I
Yeah.
think we know what we mean, right?
Right,
The signs are gonna be up saying,
Right.
Mhm.
no smoking, no vape.
right.
You're only striking that single sentence, leaving yeah.
Yeah, and then if you look up further, just make sure that all of the changes that I made are clearly reflected here. Since that particular sentence is still included, where we needed to align with the other policy had to do with the length of suspension. So for first violation, number 4 on page 2, it says that a student will be suspended for 4 days. Our other policy says 3 days. So I put it in 3 days. And then under second violation, the student will be suspended for 6 days. We reduce that to 5 days. And there is already some restorative language in here. And then under the third violation, it said the student will be suspended for 8 days. That would actually be 10 days. It's actually more in that regard to make a match. Yeah, those are the big changes. So I apologize. I don't know why you didn't actually get the correct policy there. So I will make sure the correct policy goes to the board. And of course, I made any other similar changes that we've made before. Eliminating his, her, making it neutral, that type of thing.
There's. I'll hand you my copy, but there's just a couple other, like the formatting numbering is out of alignment and then A, but no B, and there's a C. So I've circled them and.
Okay, yeah, if you would send those along, that would be really helpful. Okay. Anything else on ADCR? Right, then I would ask that we actually remove or table EEBA, which is the use of multifunction school activity buses. I was in a meeting the other night and our attorney advised that we check first with our insurance company. We never used to be able to drive multifunctional school, these vehicles in the past, these vans, they were 15-passenger vans, and the law has recently changed. But she advised that we really check with our insurance company before we move forward. So if we could just table it, because I have not had an opportunity to do that. All right, then the next policy, and it's actually at least the next 2 policies. Through our workers' comp, we're able to get a little bit of a discounted rate if we have certain things in place. And a couple of those things that they want in place are a couple policies. So here is an insurance program risk management sample policy that would, yeah, it just explains our loss, our exposure to loss. And asks that we develop protocols, make sure that we have those in place in dealing with claims. So this is just the standard MSMA policy that was provided. And as you can see, they're calling it an umbrella. So it's the overarching one. And then the next policy, EI-R. Actually goes underneath that policy, right? And that one is the return to work and reasonable accommodations. It's the administrative procedures to EI. And I have made no changes to that other than to change where it said school district and insert MSAD11. So I don't know what your thoughts are on these.
Yeah.
Pretty standard.
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
Looked good to me.
Okay. Next one is GBEC, drug-free workplace. This one is just up for a 5-year review. I compared it with the main school management template. And the only thing that I changed was the heavy-handedness of where I wrote MSAD11 instead just kept it to board. And he made that neutral, just as we've done with the others, and there were no other changes.
I just had one question. I know, it's been reviewed by us and MSMA and attorneys. It talks about which, it names specific, substances, including alcohol and synthetic stimulants, that kind of thing. I didn't see it say anything about prescription drugs or misuse of prescription drugs. Is that something we've specified a lot in there? That's where it stands out to me. Does that fit under controlled
I
substances?
think it fits
Okay,
under
yeah.
controlled substances,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. That was just wanted to check on that.
yeah.
Cool.
Questions, is everyone okay? Okay. Next one is IJOA. That is your field trip and other student travel. Okay, so this
Oh,
one.
go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so this one, I had to do a little work on it and I'm not sure that I caught it all. So I was a little rushed when I did it, but what I noted as I was reviewing this particular policy is that the board, and I remember doing this a few years ago, is that your approval form, your field trip and excursion approval form, it was decided, I don't remember the year, 2000, that the board would only receive notification for overnight and out-of-state trips. Now, if they're international, they always come to the board. But required overnight or out-of-state notification, which is the practice that we have been enforcing. But when I went back and I looked at IJOA, that's not exactly what it said. It said that any overnight curriculum-related trip needed to be approved by the board. So I tried to identify those areas, I struck them out, and I did a double underline with recommended change.
Right.
But this one's entirely up to what you guys want. If you want to keep IJOA as is and just modify the form to match, of course, I can do that.
It's a curriculum related trip.
That would be, a field trip would be if a classroom teacher is taking students on a trip, a field trip, because it's directly
Like
related.
Fort Western or something.
Yeah, something that's directly
Gotcha.
related to the curriculum and their lesson plan, and yeah.
Kind of like the update in the IJOA. Just, for us to be able, for the board to be, informed and approve of out-of-state and overnight trips. Does that delay things too much, or? I mean, that's part of the process,
So you're saying
yeah.
you want to keep it as is what you're saying. It does delay, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it would just mean that we would have to be clearer with the expectation that the documentation in the request has to be sent in further in advance than sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Now, some of them are great. So there's one on the board. This is not curriculum related. It's basketball team going to Boston overnight. But that one came in like months ago. So it's a reminder that it's happening and it was here months ago. And of course, whenever we have trips that are curriculum related that are overseas, we always ask 2 years in advance, but that's because all of the fundraising that needs to go with it.
Right.
So again, either is fine with me, whatever you would prefer. So,
I like the fact that people should turn it in early enough so that it could be approved by the board, so at least we know what's happening, and if there was a risk that we are aware that something could happen.
okay, so keep board approval for overnight and out-of-state trips as well as overseas. Okay, all right, I will go back. And that means that I will need to update R, and we will change notification to board approval. Any other changes to IJOA? We'll revert back to the policy as it currently stands. I'll remove all of my recommended changes. But is there anything else in that policy that you would like to see updated? Something I missed maybe, or?
Just, and maybe I need another clarification on the other part for a second, but just one other thing I noticed that at the top of IJOA, there's the opening paragraph in a sentence, then it says field trips and field trip in quotes, and then there's a sentence right below that that says field trips must be approved, submitted and approved by the building principal, and that didn't make sense to me. I think
I think it should be field trips must be approved, comma.
and submitted.
And submitted and approved by the building principal and the superintendent 30 days in advance. Yeah, the "and" doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just either the "and" or maybe the "approved" a couple times. So that was the only thing there. And then just to go back to the recommendation, it looks like the crossed out section, it says superintendent and board must approve in advance, is crossed out, but then the double underlined section, all out of state and overnight trips require prior approval. Is that the change you're recommending, or?
No, what I was just trying to clarify was current practice, that right now they all require prior approval from me.
Yeah.
And notification to the board.
Okay.
And so if you're looking at D, that's what it stated. And then if you look at other school-sponsored trips at the bottom of 2,
Yeah.
I was changing it to all out-of-state and overnight trips require prior approval from both, from this. That should say from the superintendent, while out-of-state trips additionally require board approval. So I did not get that correct. There we go.
So that's where I was had a little gap. So that would put, out of state and overnight trips going to you, out of country trips, and the board would be notified, out of country trips would require board approval.
That's current practice, but what you're telling me is that you don't want that. You want to go back to the board receiving or being required to approve overnight, out of state, and overseas trips, all 3 of them, versus just receiving notification for overnight and out of state and then approving overseas. That's what I hear you telling me you want. And that's what I heard Molly and Joanne saying.
Well, because that's what I'm reading here on that, that section, right? That's the double piece that
We will eliminate all the double underlines.
Oh, okay.
And we will eliminate the strike throughs and keep that language in place.
Okay.
So that will revert us back to the policy as it currently stands.
So maybe you need to principal and you need to be informed 45 days in advance to make sure it hits a school board meeting unless we have a special one.
Yeah, because oftentimes we don't have a special one. You're right. So, why don't I, if you're okay with this, why don't I double check with administrators to see what they think is a reasonable time? Whether 45 days is reasonable or whether it should be 60 days for something like that. Okay. All right, I can do that. Anything else on these? Okay. Then next. We have promotion, retention, and acceleration of students. You've actually looked at these policies quite a bit. And the only change, significant change is the policy still referred to RTI, response to intervention. And we now use multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS. So I made that change, but that's pretty much other than 3 MSAD11s. So, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
There was actually one word I might change, which is the first sentence. MSAD11 Board of Directors acknowledges large body of research that discourages school retention except in very unusual, well-documented circumstances. I'm wondering about changing unusual to specific, except in very specific, well-documented circumstances. Unusual just sort of has a connotation to me, like we're talking about a student's, performance. And so we're talking about a specific student. I don't want to label student performance as unusual. I would like to say there's specific situations.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Let me run this by the director of instruction just to make sure that she agrees.
Yeah.
And if she is on board, that's what we'll do.
Cool.
And if she's not, I will bring it back to you and let you know. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, right. Yeah. Perfect.
All right, and then to go along with that is IKE-E factors to be considered. And these factors are used extensively when meeting with parents, other staff members, and really trying to decide whether a student should be retained or not.
Like this one, I wondered a little bit, should it be like a form with like check boxes, or it's just used as a reference sheet? And
That's used as a reference. We can certainly internally turn it into a checkbox. I don't think you need that for policy as long as we're following the questions that are here.
it's just really good questions and robust and
Yeah,
captures a lot of
yeah, it really is.
concepts.
Are you all set with that? Okay, then, how about we do this in 2 steps?
Sure.
Could we have a motion to recommend the ADC-R, EI, EIR, GBEC, IJOA, IJOAR, IKE, recommend them to the board for a first and second read.
Second.
Second from Joanne. Any further discussion? Yeah,
I'm suggesting foregoing the first.
Yeah, just to go to the board for first, second reading.
all right, all in favor?
Great, thank you. Okay, and then worked a little bit on job descriptions. And so what we have here is a certified occupational therapist assistant, or a CODA. So we had our CODA resigned this year. We needed to advertise. And so I worked with Sarah Bolduc-Ignaziak to create this job description so that we could advertise for the position and the person would know exactly what the requirements would be. So I put forth that, and then the other 3 that you will see are the multi-classroom leader, the REACH Associate Educational Technician 3, and the Team REACH Teacher. All of these are tied to the public impact work that we're doing. And in order for us to determine appropriate salaries, stipends, all of that, we really need to have a job description to make it really clear as to what the position is going to, what they're going to be, what their responsibilities will be. So these have been vetted through the director of curriculum. We shared them with all of the administrators, asked for input, and a lot of this information came directly from public impact and opportunity culture. So.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of things on here. One is in down in here a little bit, the team reach teacher. It looks like in job goals, it's been identified as trademarked, I think, right? It says TM on it.
Yeah, that is from opportunity culture, that is their term.
It's their term, yeah.
Yep.
Do we need that on the job title itself, like on our form?
I don't know.
And, oh, I think I saw it.
Yeah, it's actually would be on all three.
So,
I
yeah.
will need to check with them.
Yeah, right. So the reach associate, the
Yeah.
multi-classroom leader. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll need to check with them.
yeah. Yeah,
Great
just to
question.
make sure we're on.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to do something we shouldn't be doing.
Right. And then just a little bit of a formatting thing on the multi-classroom teacher leader. The professional performance responsibilities, just the font for number 1 is different from the fonts for 2, 3, 4, and on that.
2, 3, 4, and 5 differ from all other.
Oh,
And yes, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
thank you, good catch.
Um, yeah. I think the rest look good to me, and like I'm excited to move forward with this. I remember when we were talking about it, the description of, I don't know, just the connections that go on with the multi-classroom teacher. That approach seems really,
Yeah, I think it holds a lot of hope for supporting our staff. Going to promote, again, the intent is teacher retention and student growth. There's a lot of work happening behind the scenes with the district and staff, and a lot of training. I'm hearing some excitement
awesome.
and where this can take us, so what this can bring. Any other recommendations or changes to any of those job descriptions?
I'm just kind of curious under physical requirements.
For which one?
This is the building principal and director of instruction.
They all have physical
Oh,
requirements.
I was gonna say, but it was just like, must work in a noisy and crowded work environments, be able to work long, flexible hours. Are there, I was gonna say, frankly, I don't know who would want to have a job where it's kind of open-ended, that you are, there isn't some kind of limitations, in terms of how long and how flexible.
Well, the CBA is, right? And with the collective bargaining agreement, there are certainly some limitations, but we need to make sure that folks understand that sometimes there are circumstances in which it can be long, our day can be long, there are situations that happen. We can have a situation happen at the school and it is impossible for staff to just leave at 3:30, say, sorry, even though there's a crisis going on. So we put that language in all of our job descriptions, just to make sure that people are put on notice that that type of thing.
I think, do we have something like time for those kinds of situations where people work extremely long hours for a particular period of time where they are eligible, especially with, when we're taking a look at supervisory positions where during the summer months, they might be able to take a little bit more vacation time or comp time.
Well, these are not supervisory positions, right?
Well,
These are not the principal. This is a CODA. This is a classroom teacher, a multi-classroom teacher. It is an Ed Tech 3 position, and it's something called the Team Reach teacher. So these are all classroom connected positions. We do not do comp time. That is not something, however, you know, if a building principal has a staff member who had a crisis and needed to stay an hour or two late one day, I would fully expect that if they were having a quiet day, they would just go home early. And that will happen. Or if someone needs to leave early, they're able to leave early to attend an appointment without having to use sick time or personal time. All right. If there are no other questions on this.
So, yeah, would you like a motion? Yeah, and I'm happy to make a, move to, move these job descriptions as a bundle for first reading.
Thank you.
Without any further discussion. And seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you. And as a reminder, policy, you don't have a lot this year that needs to be reviewed, that 5-year cycle. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping over Thanksgiving and maybe they'll.
The winter break.
I'm hoping over
Not the weather.
Christmas, thank you. There's a little bit of downtime
Huh.
that will allow me to go in and do some of that work so that we can get that done.
Awesome. I know it is you.
It's a lot of work, yeah. Yeah, there's no one else to do it, so it's when I have time. And that is, it's not very often these days, so.
No.
So that's all that I have for today. That's all I was able to pull together.
Oh, that
so.
was a lot of good stuff to, bring back and get moving. So thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
I think we're
Adjourned?
adjourned. We're good to be done.
Awesome. Fantastic, 6:04. Thank you. Yeah. Right.
So fast 40 pages. I'm wondering a little bit, I know we'd run out of time during one meeting. We had that's why I didn't for one policy meeting.
Maybe.
That's-
Yeah, I don't remember.